can you be anonymous in this world anymore? I think it's possible to be. I think in the Western world it's very difficult. I think especially people amongst our age, if you're not a part of this infrastructure, you're left out. And, you know, teenagers and 20-somethings are obsessed with the social scene and being part of something. And social networking is being part of something. It's a tribal thing. So I feel like it's possible to be anonymous, but you're limiting yourself from a lot of things. Yeah, I think if you were to cut yourself completely off from the digital world, you still have a kind of electronic fossil that would remain somewhere in the cyber ether.
Start each day with a delicious bowl of new Dan Flakes, made just for you. Here at Interlocks, we know what you like. We know you like chocolate. Dan Flakes has chocolate. We know you like toffee. Dan Flakes has toffee. We know you like bacon. Dan Flakes has bacon.
Yeah, there's a sense that certain companies can personalise a service for you, and they can work out what you want on a more personal level, especially kind of when you're shopping, and you know, if you've got a loyalty card or something like that, they can predict what kind of products that you want and how you want them presented, and you know, there is a sense of streamlining the consumer experience. Facebook, you get the feeling that it's just amongst your friends that you're sharing this information. That's the feeling I get. I never think that this is information that businesses are seeing. So, you know, I always thought that it was information that would be out there. I don't know who looks at my page, that's true, but I don't feel like I'm a target in terms of people trying to know more about me. I don't think my Facebook page says a lot that could put me at risk, nor does my MySpace page, so I don't feel like I'm at risk of anything. If people want to look at my page, I don't really mind. Yeah, I think like it's pretty much necessary. It has its downsides, but you know, it's part of our culture. Sure.
I think what we thought when we watched Dan's story was that it's a really clever way of showing that the information we give out contains details that people can use to make judgments about who we are. And in the private sector, that means they can segment the kind of products they offer to different kinds of people in a smarter way. So people like Dan get kind of cereals that kind of match what he wants or needs. And what's so interesting, that seems really convenient and really exciting to us sometimes when we can find products that kind of match what we want to say about ourselves or the kind of things we like to eat. But in the longer term, it's kind of quite difficult to understand what the consequences are of people being able to kind of make those kind of judgments about who we are and what we like.
I think there are hundreds of ways that people are sharing their personal information, both when they know and when they don't. So Facebook and MySpace are one example where Dan talks about, well, actually this is private, this is my personal information and people can't see it that I don't choose, but actually often they can.
We do live in a surveillance culture, but that's not something that just happens to us, whether that is the case in the case of surveillance. There's also different kinds of surveillance which we're more and more willing to be a part of, which is where we give away information about ourselves pretty readily, and actually we're not too bothered about the fact that CCTV cameras are around sometimes. We want the kind of benefits that we feel they give us, even if they're not borne out in actual, reduced crime or whatever. So the important thing is surveillance now is more about kind of how we watch each other as well as the fact that we're watched by other people. And I think what the pamphlet we've written is about is trying to make sure that it remains about how we watch each other and becomes about judgments we all make together rather than judgments other people make out of our hands. I mean, in Dan's story, when the private and public sector meet and hand over information, obviously that doesn't happen in real life. But the point that there is that exchange and there is that merging of views is real, and that's partly down to the merging of the roles of the public and private sector, which means that it's much more difficult to separate the points at which information would be relevant just for the private sector or just for the public sector, because decisions about the worth of an individual or how much of a risk they pose are things that they both need to be or want to be aware of. We say that each government department has to have kind of an open debate about why it's gathering information, why it's using it, kind of what basis it has for doing so and who it's going to be sharing it with, so that people can have an opportunity to say, well, that's okay, I can see the benefits I'm getting from that, and what are safeguards against you kind of misusing it or using it in different ways. And that, I think, one of the kind of specific examples we put out is the identity card scheme, which at the moment has been kind of just suffered from a complete lack of open debate about exactly why it's happening, apart from some pretty big claims about security and immigration, which people kind of probably think are quite intangible and can't really connect to the ways that the government collects information about them.